I'm Logan.
And I'm Alyssa.
And this is take 3 of take 4 of Marketer's Cut. We've tried this intro 3 times now. This is our 3rd time. Anything you want to say about that, Alyssa?
No.
No, nothing at all?
No, I like doing a podcast.
Okay, cool. Well, like we talked about last episode, we wanted to do some movies that help highlight Native American Heritage Month, which is November. Now, this podcast will probably drop on December 1st, but it doesn't mean November doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Exactly. But we really wanted to do this, and the timing was just sort of weird. But we picked 2 movies. One that's relatively newer, technically came out in 2019, but it's got its wide release on Shudder in April of this year, and that's Blood Quantum. And we're also talking about a slightly older film from 1998 called Smoke Signals. Alyssa's idea, it was her idea for Smoke Signals because she loves this movie. She watched it in a class once.
Yeah, I loved it very much, and I have been telling Logan since I watched that movie 3 years ago that we should watch this movie. And then we came up with this idea, and I said, oh my god, now we can watch this movie. And then we watched it, and Logan was like, wow, that was a good movie. And I knew he would love it, and I love it. So here we are.
It was a good movie, and yes, here we are. Before we go into talking about Blood Quantum, I want to share some quotes from an interview that Jeff Barnaby, the director and writer of Blood Quantum, did with Vulture, which sort of helps highlight why we wanted to do this episode in the first place.
Wait, let me guess. Because it's spooky.
No. We're almost in December.
Well,
spooky season was over a month ago.
You picked the spooky movie. I figured it's so you could force me to watch a spooky movie.
No, but that was a good plus side. I was very glad that was able to happen. No, so the interview talks a lot about the pressures of being Native in North America. It talks a lot about representation in film and what different representation means and how that has existed with Indigenous peoples in the past 2 decades, and in talking about natives in the film industry, he does say at one point, even now, is there a Native film industry? Fuck, we're not even in the conversation, in my opinion. Which I did find sort of true when trying to find movies for this podcast. Our goal is to try to find stuff that people have seen and are talking about so that we can be sort of relevant. And unfortunately, on a mass scale, there aren't a lot of Indigenous films that meet that criteria. So Barnaby talks about how there isn't much of a Native film industry now. There is, but in terms of how films are popularized and made within like the Hollywood structure, it's pretty rare to get a Native production where it's both Native filmmakers and Native actors on screen. It normally seems to be one or the other, or worse than that, which isn't great. He also says at one point, the last crossover I can think of that happened in Hollywood was probably Smoke Signals, which was like 20 years ago. And the promise that movie made was never delivered by the industry. Which, unfortunately, he's right about that. So we wanted to find some movies that we could talk about. One was, of course, Smoke Signals, and his newest film, Blood Quantum. And we watched them both, and I'm excited to get into them here.
Me too.
Yep. So let's jump into Blood Quantum. Like we talked about, it is written and directed by Jeff Barnaby. There are a couple of names and tribe names that I'm going to say in this episode that I am doing my best to say correctly. But if I butcher them, I apologize. So he's a member of the Mi'kmaq tribe. He grew up on a Mi'kmaq reserve in Canada. This is a Canadian film. Just want to point that out. It's starring Michael Greyeyes, El Maya Tailfeathers, and Forrest Goodluck, and it's distributed by Elevation Pictures. Let's kind of start with our thoughts on the film. What do you think about it?
It was spooky. It was I mean, I was never scared, but I was spooked. There's a lot of blood. A lot of people were dying, and I don't care about people dying, but there was a lot
You
of
don't.
blood.
I'm sorry. You don't care about people dying.
Not in movies, it doesn't bother me. I see people die in movies all the time, but I don't see so much blood from people dying in movies. It makes me a little queasy, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely gratuitous with its gore and violence and blood and everything, which fits the genre and fits what the movie's trying to do, and also just fits being a Shudder exclusive. Like being an exclusive on like the horror streaming service, I think it represents what Shudder's trying to do really well.
Yeah, I thought it was a fairly good movie. I was confused at some things and some of the motives, but overall, I was surprised because most horror movies do not get good names for being good movies. So I thought it was pretty good for what it was for being a horror movie.
Yeah, if you can't tell, Alyssa's not a horror fan.
I don't like the scary spookies that much. Um, and yeah, but I mean, again, I thought it was decent for the horror spooky scaries, and um, there were a lot of zombies.
That's true. There were a lot. I thought it was a fresh take on the zombie genre, which is always exciting because uh, it's a pretty overused genre in low budget movies, but I think it has a lot of potential to say a lot of powerful things, which I think this movie does. So I was really happy to see how it took it attacked the genre with a really fresh lens, both in terms of horror filmmaking, but also from the Indigenous perspective that we don't see a lot in horror at all.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they both tied in nicely. The Indigenous aspects of it, and then the zombie aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fresh take. Sometimes you get sick of the zombie movies. It's the same thing over and over again. But this one was different. And it did keep me more intrigued.
Yeah, I agree. So like I said earlier, I think it premiered in 2019 originally. That was at the Toronto International Film Festival. And it won second runner-up for the People's Choice Award, Midnight Madness, which I don't know a ton about this, but my best guess is that is a more of a genre film, horror sort of subsection of the Toronto International Film Festival.
Yeah, sounds like a spooky one.
Which sounds like a great time.
Sounds like a time to watch all the spookies.
That's your favorite word, huh?
Yes.
So that's impressive in its own right. And then amid the COVID-19 pandemic, it ended up releasing as an exclusive on Shudder on April 28th, 2020. Like I talked about earlier, this movie's perfect for Shudder. I mean, if you get on... So I have an Apple TV. That's how we watched it on the Apple TV app. If you get on it, it's just the way they have the app structured. And it feels like a celebration of horror. And I feel like it's a really good home for a movie like this.
You mean a spooky one?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's not on Shudder in its home country though. In Canada, the streaming service Crave holds the streaming rights. Which reading up on that is it's a big thing in Canada. I haven't really heard much about it, but that's how people watch a lot of like Showtime, Stars, and HBO and stuff in Canada as well. So let's talk about some of the real marketing behind this movie. The trailer is a good first starting point, I feel like. On like the movie page on Shudder, there's just a little trailer button, and that's how we watched the trailer for this one. What were your thoughts, Alyssa?
The trailer was spooky, and I feel like it matched kind of the spooky of the movie.
Yeah.
I felt it was a pretty good portrayal of what you were about to watch.
I thought it was a great trailer, too.
Yeah.
It was, intense and set up the premise pretty well. And also there was a cool... So the movie has some... it happens 3 or 4 times. But it has animated scenes. Or short animated sequences. And in the trailer, there's one clip of one of those animated sequences. It's the only one in the trailer. And I was like, wow, what is that? We need to watch it so I can figure out what's going on here. And that was a cool aspect of the movie that I thought was teased well in the trailer.
I agree, because it wasn't like the main focus, but it was nice to see those 2 to 4 times that we saw it, and I think it really added to the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Also, the poster.
Poster was spooky, but also really cool.
The poster is interesting. It looks really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it feels a little more Green Inferno-like than zombie-like to me. I don't know why.
I can agree with that. I definitely don't get like a huge zombie vibe from it, but after watching the movie and then seeing the poster, I'm like, hey, that's a cool poster.
Yeah, it makes sense after watching it. The costuming here is like a really cool feature
Yeah.
of the post-apocalyptic settings that the movie has, which, again, was a pretty cool aspect of this movie. Another thing I want to point out with the poster is that under the title, Blood Quantum, it says a film by Jeff Barnaby, director of Rhymes for Young Ghouls, which was a movie that I believe came out in 2013. Let's see. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Sorry, 2014. My bad.
Oh.
But I've heard really great things about that movie. I haven't seen it. But Barnaby has been really well respected for a number of years now because of that movie, and then now what he's done with Blood Quantum. Seems like a really exciting filmmaker. And last thing I want to talk about in the real marketing here is just Shudder and how Shudder like talks about their movies. They're obviously a more they're a smaller streaming service, very focused on horror, which is great. But it doesn't seem like Shudder has the I say it doesn't seem like there's no possible way that Shudder has a sort of extra cash to throw behind their movies that Netflix or Amazon does.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I don't feel like I saw a lot of heavy promotion with this movie, but I did see Shudder themselves boosting a lot of word of mouth and stuff. And if you go on Shudder's Twitter feed, that's what they do. Like they, whoever runs their social media loves horror. You can tell, and they love the movies that are on Shudder, so they are constantly talking about their originals and even movies that aren't originals and just trying to get people on the service. But they definitely talked about Blood Quantum a lot, and honestly might be part of the reason why I heard of the movie in the first place, because Shudder did all they could to boost people talking about it.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. How can Shudder make more money off of the spookies?
So I was thinking about this recently, and I was like, well, like, sci-fi sort of, like, gets lumped in with horror sometimes. Like, you see sci-fi horror, or, like, sci-fi fantasy and stuff like that. It's genre films. So, like, what if Shudder were to expand to that? But then I was like, no, that's a terrible idea because of what I've been saying. Like, Shudder doubles down on horror, and they do it so well. Like, you get on their app and you know what you're there for, and it makes you feel, like you're part of, I don't know, like you're part of a community, which is weird, but that's what the app does. So my idea is bad. What do you think?
Okay, so you have someone, and they spook people. And if you get spooked by the Shudder Monster, you have to give them money.
Okay, cool. So one question, how much money? Like it's just like a 1 month subscription. I think it's like $6.
No, it's not bad. A 1 month subscription of $6.
So if you get spooked, you're legally obligated to pay for a 1 month subscription to Shudder.
Yeah, and I mean, you can use it or you don't have to use it, but like you're gonna have to pay that money because you got spooked.
That's true.
Now listen, if you don't spook easily, you're not gonna have to pay it. But if the Shudder Monster spooks you, you gotta pay up.
That's true, and that's a good way to get some non-horror fans to pay for Shudder, because that's probably its biggest problem. Is that like you're never gonna pay for a Shudder subscription, but if you get spooked by the Shudder Monster, and like in a second I'm gonna ask you what that monster looks like. If you get spooked by it, you have to pay for it. So boom, you got some non-horror fans in there at least for a month. And then you could take all that money you're making and throw it behind movies like Blood Quantum, and boom, everyone's heard of it now.
Exactly.
Awesome. So what does the Shudder Monster look like?
So I have...
Start with the feet.
I don't know if we could start with the feet. So there's two ideas I have in my head. One is, such a cheap werewolf mask. I mean, it's falling off the face almost. Plaid shirt, ripped jeans, I don't know, boots maybe, I don't know about that. That's my first, these are just coming out of my head, pure imagination. Second one is just someone dressed in all black, but on their head is like a cube and it's like the Shudder logo, and that's it. Okay. It's just someone completely dressed up in black, but with the Shudder logo on their head, just a big cube, and you get scared. You know you're scared by the Shudder Monster now. I mean, that's,
No, look, it takes a lot of money to like research and develop a creature design, you know? And maybe
Yeah.
Shudder doesn't have the money right now to do it. So maybe they could take an existing creature, slightly alter the design, throw a Shudder logo on it, and call it their own.
I just feel like it'd be confusing to be a monster and a Shudder logo at the same time. That's why I
Maybe.
only picked two.
But what if you take
separate.
like Barney, all right? But instead of like his regular dinosaur head, it's like a skull head, like a human skull.
I just don't know about that.
And then on his chest, you have a Shudder logo.
No.
Boom, Shudder Monster. I like you already have the design in your head, perfect.
Listen, I gave you two ideas. You use them both. You have the Shudder Monster, who's the werewolf. He scares the people. And then the other Shudder person with the logo all black comes up and say, haha, you owe us $6.99 now. Or whatever the price is. And then you give it to him. The other man, he doesn't take the money. Only the Shudder man takes the money. The generic werewolf.
You can't trust the monster with the money.
You can't trust the monster,
the monster
with the money.
will take the Shudder money. I mean, that's why he's a monster.
He might.
Yeah. Okay. I like this. I like where this is going. We're going to ignore how they're going to legally enforce any of this. That's what Shudder pays their lawyers for. So they'll take care of that. Let's talk about our ideas for marketing Blood Quantum. That movie. I have a cool one. It's not a funny one. It's a cool one.
Okay, we'll go, because I don't know.
Okay, so you remember Blade Runner 2049?
Yes.
And do you remember the anime short film that takes place like 20 years before the new movie that was on YouTube that we watched? I watched it with you. I made you watch it with me.
Kind of, yes.
Okay, so look, you already have like this cool animated stuff for this movie. I think like some animated short films that maybe show the period in between, like when the zombie outbreak starts and like where they get where they are.
In between, like an in between little, yes.
Yeah, and like you release that, it's 3-4
idea.
minutes on YouTube or something, and you get people interested. They gotta buy Shudder to watch.
Shudder should be paying us right now for these.
Oh, I would love to work for
ideas.
Shudder. Like a streaming service would be cool to work for, but like one that's so focused on horror and like I don't know. You just gotta imagine the Shudder offices are spooky as heck.
Imagine during Halloween time.
Oh yeah, but I mean it's always the same. They don't change for Halloween. They're always ready. Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean I think that'd actually be a cool thing. Obviously, it takes money to make an animated short film, but you already have kind of like this art style. It would have been cool to see that because the movie already is sort of not focused on, but it has it does a good job of like building its lore, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these like cool costumes, like it almost like the costumes are almost designed for cosplay. Like it looks so cool and stuff. So I think you already kind of have the foundation to like expand on the story a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly think it would have tied the animation in even more than it already was, honestly. I mean, I think it would have even added to the movie itself.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So now I have to think of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, thinking very good. With my big brain, my brain's so big. I'm thinking this is going to be a pea-sized idea, though. Let's think about it. Okay, there are zombies there.
Yeah, there are. This is a zombie film.
Well, sometimes I think about the prank movies, and it's like, ooh, what if a zombie comes out and gets them? But you film it. And they're like, ah. So there's my whole idea. Shudder's getting money and marketing this movie.
Yeah, we've talked more about Shudder marketing than marketing for this movie, but I think that's fine and that works because once you get on Shudder, you're going to tweet out, you're like, hey, Shudder, what do I watch? And they're going to tweet out all their exclusives. They're like, go watch Blood Quantum.
Buzzinga.
Yep. Okay, well, don't say that. There might be some copyright issues with that phrase. I don't know.
Probably.
Why do I do this with you every Sunday?
Okay, let's talk about Smoke Signals. I love this movie. It's very good, and it's very indie feeling, and it's very 1998.
Yes it is. It is directed by Chris Eyre. He's a member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. Written by Sherman Alexie, who is a member of the Spokane Coeur d'Alene tribe, which is Coeur d'Alene is the one that's focused on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is based on a short story or book of short stories called The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven by Sherman Alexie. So the person who wrote that book and the short stories also wrote the screenplay for this. It stars Adam Beach, Evan Adams, and Irene Beddard, and distributed by Miramax. Opened on July 3rd, 1998. You want to guess how much it opened to? It's always unfair to talk about like indie movies because you don't know if it opened in 200 screens, 1,000, 5, you have no idea.
I'm guessing 12.4 million.
Okay, its opening weekend was 43,000, but it was only on 5 screens, so that's a pretty good haul for 5 screens. Its total gross was $6,745,362.
Okay.
So, for a movie like this, an indie film, looked like it was relatively low budget. That seems like a pretty good haul for this. But clearly, this movie is still talked about today. I mean, like Jeff Marnaby mentioned, if you're going back in the last 20 years and trying to find movies that are pretty much all native productions, which this one was, like down from the director, writer, cast, crew, and everything, pretty much all native, you're not going to find many. This is one of them, and I think it definitely saw some success, and is a highly respected film to the point where like it's talked about in film studies classes and everything, like you would know.
Like I would know.
Yep. It won Best Film at the American Indian Film Festival.
Woo!
Yeah. It won the Filmmakers Trophy and Audience Award at the Sundance Film Festival.
Woo!
Okay, I was waiting for you to do it on that one too. It won a bunch of other awards too. I didn't list them all here, but I remember seeing the Gotham Awards. One of the actors won an award at the Independent Spirit Awards for like best like debut performance or something like that. So it was very like critically acclaimed, and audiences loved it too. It was a funny movie. It was a good comedy, I thought.
Yeah.
Because I laughed a lot. We already know you love this movie, so I guess I'll talk about how I feel about it.
Yes.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved the tone. I loved the references to non-native created media or characters and stuff, like the Lone Ranger and Tonto. We talked about that. We talked about Dances with Wolves, which is problematic in its own ways.
Mm-hmm.
It references stuff like that while on screen being the exact opposite of those sorts of things,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was nice. Yeah, so let's talk about the marketing for this. What did you think of the trailer?
The trailer is one of the most 90s trailers I think I've ever experienced in my life.
That is fair. Yeah, I thought the trailer was very 90s as well. A little cheesy, I guess, with like its use of music and the narrator. Narrator is not the right word. It's more like a voiceover.
So cheesy.
Yeah, definitely very cheesy. But I almost sort of felt wholesome as well, which is the kind of vibe you get from this movie. I would classify it as a coming-of-age story of sorts. As 2 different coming-of-age stories kind of in one, which was cool. Both of the main characters, Victor and Thomas, sort of go on their own journeys, their own separate journeys together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and that was really nice. I want to focus on Gary Farmer, who played Arnold in Smoke Signals. Also made an appearance in Blood Quantum.
Yes, he was a pretty, I wouldn't say large character in it, but like a pretty medium character in Blood Quantum.
Medium character. He had not just one scene. He was in multiple scenes and everything, and obviously an essential role in this film. I liked his performance a lot in both movies. That was very cool. Let's see the poster. What do you think of the poster? I also think the poster is extremely 90s.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is.
Yeah. I actually remember I saw the poster before we saw the movie. I didn't make this connection until I'm looking at it again right now. But it has Victor on the left, Thomas on the right, and in the middle it has I think her name was Susie Song. In the middle it has her. Who they meet like well into like the middle, the second half of the movie and stuff. But seeing the poster, I thought it was gonna kind of be like a road trip type movie with all three of them together.
Yeah, I'm also kind of shocked that she's like right there, dead center in the middle of this movie.
Yeah, because the movie's like definitely about Thomas and Victor.
Yeah.
So when I saw the poster before the movie, I was like, oh, it's going to be about the three of them, and then we watched it, and I didn't realize that it wasn't until just now. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's odd. But yeah, there's some good quotes on the poster. I mean, one of the best films of the year, very funny. 2 big thumbs up. Which I agree with all of that. So, that's interesting. Anything else you want to talk about before we jump into our dumb ideas for marketing this movie?
No, other than I do think I like it because it was wholesome. I love anything that's wholesome so much. It's like my favorite stuff. And so it went, as soon as you said that, I was like, that's why I love this movie. It had drama, it had comedy. They're best buds. I think Thomas is so good and funny. I love him. And it just made it all together. A big old wholesome pie.
Well, sure. Okay. Cool. Do you have any ideas for how you would market this great 1998 film?
I would put it in front of Toy Story 2 in the trailers.
In front of Toy Story 2, why is that?
Because everyone loved Toy Story 2.
So your idea is just to put the trailer before Toy Story 2?
Listen, my brain's not working today, and these ideas are bad, and I feel very ashamed right now, but I don't know what else to say.
Okay, well...
You say an idea, and then maybe I'll come up with a good one, but probably not. I'm not on it today.
So...
I'm just not in it today, my guy.
Can we focus on Thomas?
Yes.
Okay. Thomas is just funny. He tells stories really good.
He's the best storyteller I know.
Yeah, he like closes his eyes and gets really into it, and I love that. I love that aspect of the movie. But maybe you get like a trailer of him like doing instead of like that 90s voiceover we get in the trailer, why don't we have Thomas like
telling a story?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good trailer.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing because he doesn't really tell the story of them doing their things, but he tells so many other stories that I think if they recorded him telling a story of their story,
yeah,
and then putting it on the trailer but not putting it in the movie, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, almost like the guy in Ant-Man.
What?
The guy in Ant-Man, how he tells the stories, and it's like really funny.
No.
And it gives the voiceover of like the characters that and this person was like blah 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 blah, and this person was like blah 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 blah.
Nope.
Okay. But no, I mean, so normally we try to throw out some really bad ideas, but if you're listening Shudder, and if you're listening anyone else involved in this movie, we got some good ideas this time, I think.
We actually have
bad ones, but we do have some good ones.
We have some very bad ones, but also kind of like good real ones. So like maybe listen to those. Don't listen to our other podcasts because our credibility is gonna go down. Only listen to this one where we're telling you really good ideas, and don't listen to the bad ones either. Perfect.
I love how we're 4 episodes in and we're already like, hey, don't listen to our podcast. I was hoping we can go a little bit longer before we just completely fall down that hole, but we've said it now, guys. Don't listen to us ever anymore. We're done.
No, we just shouldn't. If they want to take us seriously,
that's true.
They shouldn't listen to the other ones. This one's genius.
Yeah. So I hope my boss doesn't listen to these because he's like, man, who did I hire?
That's a good point.
Yeah. I swear I'm so much better at what I do than how I come across on here. Well, I think that's a good note to end it on. I mean, Thomas needs to narrate the trailer. What do you think?
I agree.
Why are you're looking at your computer screen weird?
Well, because the podcast theme's about to start playing. It says on my computer.
It's muted. It's not going to start.
I know, but it makes me nervous and like I should be really wrapping up fast.
Okay. Well, we are going to wrap up now. Thanks for listening. Again, November is Native American Heritage Month. Even though this might drop late, I'm going to link to an article that I'll find somewhere that has some places that you can support and or donate to if you would like. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Marketers Cut. You can find the podcast anywhere you can find podcasts or on YouTube. You can also learn more at marketerscut.com. I want to thank Jacob Wall for doing our podcast art. Find more of his work on Instagram at Jacob Art Wall. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. I'm also going to link that interview with Jeff Barnaby in our description because it's a great interview. He seems like a really charismatic, matter-of-fact sort of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
love that.
yeah, it's definitely worth your time to read. So do you have anything else you want to say before we end the episode for today?
Peace out, chickadees.
Goodbye. We'll see you, or we won't see you, and you won't see us, but you'll hear us, and we won't hear you next week.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Chickadees.
Stop saying words.